On today's episode, we're going to be talking about buying your first traditional bow. We're going to offer up some hints and some reasons why that'll make it a little bit easier for you to get a better bow that'll fit you and be more successful right from the get-go. I'm your host, Rob Gillow, and welcome to Traditional Tips and Trips. Now, first we're going to start this video out with a disclaimer. What we're going to be talking about today is overall general aspects of a bow and what fits better. There's a lot of different bow designs, a lot of different custom manufacturers that build bows for specific reasons that is going to be different than what we're talking about. But in general, we're going to be talking about the best basic bows for you to start with. Now, one of the great advantages of working here at Shoepack Sporting Goods is I get the pleasure of talking with a lot of folks starting down their traditional path. And a lot of them are just never shot a bow before, and most of them are coming from shooting a compound or a crossbow and wanting to challenge themselves more. So I always ask them a few basic questions starting out, so I would have you do the same. Number one, are you looking to just target shoot and have fun in the backyard? Are you looking to get into target archery and compete? Are you wanting to be a bow hunter and bow hunt with your traditional equipment? Or just play around with the aspects of both? In most cases, these answers are most important when it comes to choosing the poundage of the bow that we're going to be looking at. Now, you're starting out just playing around, shooting in the backyard, and wanting to get into archery that way. There are some very inexpensive bows that you can start out and do very well with, similar to this PSE Heritage or one of the Bear Bullseyes that you can pick up usually at around $100. Now, these are really nice bows that you can get up, shoot, start learning your form and everything, and become accurate with while you enjoy playing outdoors. Because one of the biggest mistakes folks make in getting their first bow has to do with the amount of poundage that they're shooting. A lot of folks coming from a compound are used to shooting their 60 and 75 pound bows, and you really don't need to do that. In fact, getting a bow that is too strong for you from the get-go can cause a lot of bad form issues and really start you out on the wrong foot of starting down your traditional trail. In most cases, a bow drawing 20 to 30, 35 pounds at your draw is more than enough to send arrows down range and be accurate with it and learning the joy that comes with shooting a traditional bow. Now, the second biggest mistakes folks make in buying their first traditional bow is actually in the bow length. For most target archers, you're going to want a little longer of a bow. It's going to be more stable, more forgiving, therefore more accurate to shoot. Most bow hunters want something a little bit smaller, but where it's just as easy for a target archer to go too long, it's extremely easy for a bow hunter to try and end up into a bow that's too short for them. And that depends a lot on their actual body size and their true draw length. In most cases, the average person, adult, draws 27 to 28 inches. On a recurve bow, that puts one of your optimum right around the 60-inch bow. This allows for the working portion of the limb to utilize the majority of its aspects without getting into the fade out area. For longer than that, 60 inch is about the shortest. Most cases, with my 29.5-inch draw, I do shoot some 60-inch recurves. I do better with 62-inch and 64 at the absolute longest that I like. When it comes to longbows, I much prefer my 64-inch longbow at my draw, and 62 for the shorter end. Now again, for the average person, 27 to 28 inches, you really want to look at the aspect of a 62-inch longbow with 64 getting in the longest. Now, they make longbows from 56 inches all the way to 70. So part of the problem is if you have a shorter draw, say 25, 26-inch bow or draw length, and you end up with a 64-inch longbow, you are barely coming into the working portion of the limb, so you're not going to get the full potential and efficiency out of the bow. On the same token, if you have a longer draw, like myself, 29, and you get yourself into 58 or 56-inch recurve, now you're coming past the working portion of the limb and you're starting into the fade out areas. When you do that, you get what we call stacking. Most production bows are going to increase 3 to 4, sometimes 5 pounds per inch past 28 inches. So as you get deeper into this fade out area, that jumps a lot, 7, 8 pounds per inch that you're drawing. So you not only get stacking, which means the bow seems to get really hard to draw, but it also adds another stage of that limb recovery. So now instead of 2, the working portion and the limb tip, you now have added a third into this deeper fade out area, then the working portion, then the limb tip, which means any torque that you put into the bow ends up throwing your shot off. So they're not as stable or forgiving to shoot. So again, most cases, 27, 28 inches of a draw, you want to look at a recurve in the 60-inch length to 62. For the longbow, you want to look in that 62 to 64-inch length. Again, there's models available shorter and longer. Too long, you lose the efficiency in the bow. Too short, and you work into that fade out area, your bow stacks and becomes unstable, therefore less forgiving to shoot. Now, for the aspect of hunting, we're looking at a little different poundage. In most cases, you want to start out 35 to 45 pounds. Now that's more than enough to send an arrow through most big game in North America, especially in the 40 to 45 pound range. But be sure to check your state regulations. Some states actually have poundage requirements for you to bow hunt, and some have poundage requirements for an individual species. So make sure you look at those before you start out in the woods with your new trad bow. In most cases, 35 to 45 pounds is more than enough, especially with the right broadhead and arrow. One of the other aspects you had to think about when we're talking for hunting is in the limb design. Much like this Black Hunter is set up so it has a double core wood of laminations, which means there's actually 2 laminations of core wood down on either side of the fiberglass. Different than the less expensive Target model, which only has 1. One that has 2 or 3 laminations within the limb is going to perform much better, give you a lot more energy into that arrow that's going to help you in the hunting woods. Now, you still don't need to spend a lot of money to do that. In these aspects, like these Black Hunters, double core lamination with bamboo, and they retail here at the store for $159. And of course, you can't ever forget the classics. Just a good old-fashioned old bow that was built back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that still work phenomenal today. Like this is an old Bear Minuteman that was built back in 1975. And I guarantee will kill any big game animal that I shoot at. So there are some things to think about and look at for poundage when it comes to your hunting bow. Again, don't overbow yourself. You don't need that 60, 70 pounds like you shot on your compound. 35 to 45 pounds will basically take most of your game. 40 to 45 will take anything in North America with the right broadhead and arrow. Well, there you have it. Some helpful hints and some things to think about in picking your first traditional bow. What type of shooting do you want to do? What's your actual draw length? Get the right poundage so you're not overbowing and struggling, and getting a bow length that's going to work best for you. Now this is also the portion that you get a lot of arguments, because there's a lot of custom bows that are designed to handle longer draws in shorter lengths. And there's going to be arguments on poundage and everything else. As a generic, check your state rules. 35 to 45 pounds is plenty for hunting most things in North America with the right broadhead and arrow. And a good 60 to 64 inch recurver longbow will fit most of your shooters out there. As always, keep your broadhead sharp, your powder dry, and we'll see you right here on Traditional Tips and Trips.